Here in Tucson, members of the community are gathering behind me to celebrate and honor the life and legacy of Congressman Raul Grijalva. I'll have that story coming up.
Plus, a once-eradicated virus is spreading rapidly across one western state. We'll have more on why people are still hesitant to get vaccinated.
And I'm Max Cepeda in downtown at Chase Field on the eve of opening day. What the Diamondbacks need to do to start strong in 2025.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News. I'm Jacob Seaver.
And I'm Leslie Chapman. Thank you for joining us.
The life and legacy of Congressman Raul Grijalva was honored today at the St. Augustine Cathedral in Tucson, Arizona. He passed away earlier this month after a year-long battle with cancer. He was 77 years old. And now a celebration of life is underway. Cronkite News reporter Leah Phillips is in Tucson, where his services were held today.
Yeah, guys, all day long, the community has come together here in Tucson to celebrate the man who's represented them in Washington for the last 2 decades. Now, behind me, mourners are gathering at El Casino Ballroom to not only celebrate the last 77 years of Raul Grijalva's life, but also to celebrate his representation of Southern Arizona over those last 2 decades. The ceremony started early this morning at the St. Augustine Cathedral, where family, friends, and colleagues attended a memorial mass. It was also live streamed to the public. The service lasting roughly 2 hours, with Grijalva's family reflecting on those final moments with their loved one. While his family took center stage, politicians from Arizona and D.C., including Nancy Pelosi, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and Katie Hobbs, shared their memories.
Congressman Grijalva's spirit and his legacy are forever stitched into the fabric of Arizona. And that is why today, as we mourn his loss, we also celebrate this legacy. More than any title or bill can possibly describe is the impact Raul had on an entire generation of leaders and young people in the state of Arizona and nationally.
The son of a Mexican bracero, Grijalva spent 5 decades serving as a public servant before being elected to Congress. His work spanning from environmental protection, immigration, all the way to social justice. A man who will be remembered by his community, leaving a lasting impact on our state. In Tucson, I'm Leah Phillips, Cronkite News.
Thanks, Leah. Grijalva is survived by his wife, Ramona, and his 3 daughters and many grandchildren. His passage comes before the completion of his final term, so there will be a special election to fill his seat this fall.
Top intelligence officials testified today before the House Intelligence Committee. This comes after cabinet members allegedly texted about U.S. military plans on a messaging app. Editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg, was accidentally added to the group chat. Arizona Senator Mark Kelly had a few comments on the topic.
And I think it brings up a larger question about whether are they following the rules that the rest of us live by when we handle classified information. If this incident is any indication, it looks like they do not.
Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe defended their involvement in the group text. Shortly before the hearing, The Atlantic published more messages of Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth providing information of a targeted strike towards Houthi rebels earlier this month.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration's efforts to deport immigrants without proper documentation continues despite federal pushbacks. Regardless of legal status, economists are now saying that immigrants are more beneficial to the economy and may possibly be the key to saving Social Security. Cronkite News reporter Matthew DeWeese joins us now from our bureau in Washington, D.C. Matt, what are some of the impacts these immigrants have on the economy?
Yeah, so it's actually a common misconception that undocumented immigrants do not pay taxes in this country. They do. They pay into Social Security, Medicare, just like anyone else with a paycheck. Unless they become citizens, they're actually never going to be able to draw from those programs. So at the federal level, they're actually a net positive. Now, if you look at the other side, on the state and local level, They are entitled to public education and just a few welfare programs, so they could be a net drain there.
Congress recently passed the Laken Riley Act to boost punishment for crimes committed by immigrants. How big of a problem is that?
The per capita crime rate among native-born Americans is roughly double of what it is among undocumented immigrants in this country. Migrants are 26% less likely to commit a homicide, for instance. Migrant advocate groups are calling Trump's words and actions against these undocumented immigrants scare tactics and fear-mongering.
Well, thank you to our Cronkite News correspondent, Matt DeWeese, reporting from Washington, D.C.
The measles outbreak in Texas has surpassed the number of cases in the U.S. seen last year. So far, more than 280 infections have been reported, and it has spread to 15 additional states. Cronkite News reporter Isaiah Soto went to West Texas to see the efforts on the ground in combating the spread of the once eradicated virus. Cronkite News, the new push for child abuse prevention to be taught in Arizona's public schools. We'll meet the advocate behind the plan.
Plus, Phoenix police are implementing a controversial new policy over the use of force across the city.
Arizona is one of the 12 remaining states across the nation that has not yet passed a law that requires child abuse prevention education in public schools.
But one advocate is on a mission to change that. Cronkite News reporter Leah Phillips covers how she plans to take on Arizona legislator.
That's right. The law, if passed, would require all Arizona public schools to teach students personal body safety in an effort to help prevent sexual abuse.
Coming up next, more headlines from across the nation, including a very tense hearing in Washington today.
Two big news networks were called to testify before Congress. Find out why a character from Sesame Street became part of the testimony at the hearing when we return.
And I'm Isaiah Soto. Record-breaking temperatures across the valley have many wondering how to stay cool this summer. After the break, what the city of Phoenix is doing to help people beat the heat. Plus, I'll have your 8-day forecast when we return.
Temperatures across the valley are breaking records, and that has all of us getting ready for Arizona's long summer heat.
The city of Phoenix is expanding a program they launched last year to help us all quench our thirst.
Isaiah Soto will join us with the forecast in a bit. But first, Alana Goodman has more on the city's efforts to keep us hydrated.
If you live in the valley, you know getting cool water can be a lifeline. That's why the city of Phoenix has built these chilled water stations like this so people have access to cold water. They are motion censored and the temperature of the water is ranged from 63 to 75 degrees. The city also plans to add 6 more chilled water stations near parks and public transit areas for summer so that people can stay hydrated. Isaiah Soto from the Cronkite News Weather Center has more to talk about summer heat temperatures.
Yes, Alana, it's been a hot few days here in the valley with just yesterday experiencing 99-degree weather.
Meanwhile, the Trump administration deported almost 240 alleged members of a Venezuelan gang known as Tren de Aragua to El Salvador. For the first time since World War II, President Trump has invoked the Alien Enemies Act in order to speed up the deportations. This comes after a federal judge has tried to block the administration from using the 18th century law. Earlier today, Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, defended his use of the act.
We know TDA, based on a lot of evidence, are part of the Maduro regime through the military and law enforcement. They've infiltrated them, and look, they've invaded this country to unsettle this country, through, whether it's through fentanyl killing thousands of Americans or through the violence they're perpetrating in our cities. The president did the right thing. I stand by it.
President Trump is also alleging that some of the pardons issued by former President Joe Biden were illegal. Through a social media post, the president claimed that because Biden used auto pen, some pardons are now, quote, void, vacant, and of no further force and effect, end quote. President Trump is questioning the legality of Biden's preemptive pardons for the House committee that investigated the January 6th Capitol riot. But according to the Department of Justice, a president does not have to physically sign a bill.
President Donald Trump is weighing in on the suspension of ABC's Jimmy Kimmel Live after Kimmel made comments about right-wing influencer Charlie Kirk earlier this week. The decision was announced hours after FCC Chair Brendan Carr suggested that the agency would take action against ABC and its parent company Disney for the remarks. During Monday's monologue, Kimmel accused the, quote, MAGA gang of being desperate to characterize Kirk's alleged killer as anything other than one of them, end quote. FCC Chair Carr said that Kimmel's comments mislead the public about the most significant political assassination of our era. Although Kimmel has yet to comment about the suspension, President Trump gave his opinion earlier today in London.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
Today is day 28 of the government shutdown, and the financial pressures of the second longest shutdown are being felt throughout Arizona.
And Attorney General Chris Mays announced a multi-state suit over the suspension of SNAP benefits during the shutdown. Nearly 900,000 Arizonans use food stamps every month.
Cronkite reporter Izzy Ludlow joins us now. Izzy, how are Arizonans affected by the SNAP suspension?
Yeah, so the average Arizonan family that relies on SNAP receives $360 a month for groceries. Now, without that money, they're going to have to scramble to put food on the table.
Thanks, Nate. Coming up next, the royal family is taking it to the soccer pitch.
And a soccer legend visited the Royal Palace. Join us after the break to find out why the prince and the player switch places for the day. Welcome back. Prince William began his 5-day environmental mission trip to Brazil yesterday. This is the Prince of Wales' first visit to the country.
And he kicked off the visit by being given the city key to Rio de Janeiro. While on top of the infamous Sugarloaf Mountain, the prince will be visiting many more famous landmarks, including the Amazon rainforest, where he'll deliver a speech at the UN's COP30 summit. But before business, Prince William made sure to get a penalty kick in at the Maracanã Stadium.
And while the prince was practicing his footwork back across the pond, legendary soccer player David Beckham visited Windsor Palace. Or should I say Sir David Beckham. King Charles III presented Beckham with a knighthood for services to sports and charity. Beckham has partnered with UNICEF for 2 decades and represented the English football team 115 times.